Lift your weary head up to the sky. Open up your window, let the sun in, and sing out with your arms stretched open wide. Hello world!
Hello, world.
Hello, world. Hello, Matt.
Good morning, Chloe. How are you this morning?
Oh, I'm so great.
Now,
as
Chloe,
you can see,
yeah, I was going to say, this looks like, first of all, let's just address the elephant in the room. Our color story today is on point. We did not plan this.
Did it.
This is
Group
just
mind.
group mind. We're like, today is a maroon day.
We did it. Yeah.
And secondly,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
This is actually a Boston shirt. I wanted to let everyone know that even though I'm not in the greater Boston area at the moment, I still care about you guys.
Like Boston the band? Is it like a Boston the band shirt?
No, it's the city. It's literally
it's
got like the
it's
skyline.
a Boston shirt. Oh, it's literally a Boston shirt.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I got it because I was going on a date to a baseball game one time, and I realized I had zero Boston gear in my wardrobe. So I went out and bought it for this date.
You're a good person. You're a good person.
I'm doing my best.
Now, you say you're not in Boston. Sorry, I've got to turn some lights
correct.
on. I didn't realize it was so dark in here. Where are you calling from?
I am currently in Green Lake, Wisconsin, which is the largest lake by volume in Wisconsin.
In the world.
The
world of Wisconsin.
It's the deepest inland lake in Wisconsin.
Oh, very cool.
It's also where I grew up.
Yay.
I can tell you it's 264 feet deep at its deepest point.
Wow. It's so large.
It's so large that everyone from Chicago fits on it.
And we wish they would just do that. Just kidding. Throw in some Chicago shade this morning. Did not mean to do that. Good morning, everyone in the chat. Oh, my goodness. Good morning, the Strandrew. Kit Tempest, good morning. King Senior, good morning. And Tina Tallon. Oh, man. Just in the chat, on the show. Like you're getting double the Tina Tallon today.
Yeah, it's so great.
Very excited to have her on the show today.
I'm excited about this show. It is post 4th. It is the 5th of July. I hope
it is the 5th of July.
Is staying hydrated this morning.
Good morning, MLav.
Hooray!
Thanks for joining. Yeah, I was looking at stuff to talk about today, and I found July 5th is when Frederick Douglass made a speech called what's it called? What to the Slave is the 4th of July. And it's pretty deep. It's pretty heavy, but it's amazing. And I'm putting this link in the chat right now. This is something that they did. I think they made this video last summer, where they got his Frederick Douglass's descendants to read this poem. And it's
cool.
And it's effing brilliant. And it's very poignant. So I'm going to post this in the chat. After the show, you should go take a look at this or go bookmark this so you can watch it after the show. Or you know what? I'm okay if you stop watching us as long as you go and watch this video and then come back and tell us what you thought of it. But it's a link, and it's not going to expire, so you can really
click on it whenever.
Watch it whenever. Now, Chloe, you're road tripping right now, aren't you?
Yes.
So you're in Wisconsin. You drove to Wisconsin.
I did, yeah. So I drove first to Buffalo to pick up my friend Lily.
Oh.
So we crashed overnight there, and then we went to we drove to Elkhart, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And we stayed there overnight, which we went first to the Econo Lodge to check in there.
Yeah,
because we need
the
somewhere.
Econo Lodge.
It's the Econo Lodge, right? We needed somewhere cost effective and pet friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And we pulled in and we parked, and there was a man in a neon shirt that did not break eye contact the entire time that we were sitting there. So we decided to go with a different option.
Probably
we did not even get out of the car. We went to a La Quinta Inn and Suites.
La Quinta. Yeah.
A La Quinta. Highly recommend. Impressive number of hotels in Elkhart. I think it's a big stop off for people who are making a similar drive to the one that we are.
Right. That would check out.
But if you do ever go there, incredible botanical garden. In
Elkhart, Indiana.
Yeah. The Wellfield Botanical Garden. It was one of the best botanical gardens I've ever seen. And we went there too because we were looking up stuff that we could do. There's a couple other things. They had like a railroad museum. They had a superhero museum. Which was
into both.
I was pretty psyched about the superhero museum, but I was looking at pictures and it was a lot of like it kind of just looked like a comic book store where you couldn't buy anything. And so I was like, maybe not for me. Might be for someone else. But we ended up going to because I was looking up the website for the botanical garden, and they had yoga in the garden.
Oh, hell yeah. That's right up your alley.
Yeah. And it was so funny too, because
I just want to say everyone in the chat is super excited about the superhero museum. So
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's totally fair. I might go back. I might go there on the way back.
Okay, you might have to. Like it might be.
I gotta do it for the fans.
Required viewing.
Yeah, if anyone in the chat has any, I'll lay out the whole road trip plan for you guys. If anybody has any suggestions of places to go, or if I mention something and you're like, you should go there, let me know.
The best place to let you know would be the Discord. You can pop those travel suggestions in the Discord. I'm going to put an invite in the chat right now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we went to this yoga class, and it was all these like older retired ladies.
Aww.
And it was very chill, easy flow, which was perfect because our bodies were kind of wrecked from driving.
That is not an easy drive. I've driven from Illinois to Boston.
Yeah.
And back a couple of times. And it's not an easy drive. And you're going farther. You're even going because what the final stop is where again?
We haven't quite decided yet. So we're going to spend a week here in Wisconsin with my family. And then we're going to drive out to Colorado.
Oh, cool.
So that'll probably be 2 days of driving. I think we're probably going to go through Iowa on, what is it? 90 or something like that. I don't know the highways. I just go where Google Maps tells me.
Route 66. Are you going to take Route 66?
Yeah. Whichever one goes through Iowa City. Or Des Moines. So we're going to go to Boulder, Colorado, and then we'll be in Denver. And then we've got the last week of July we haven't totally figured out.
I love that.
We don't need roads. But we were talking about maybe Austin, Texas, somewhere around there.
Nice. Oh, I've never been to Austin, but I hear it's beautiful. One of our guests from Hello World, Samantha Bridwell, is from one of our musical guests. She is from Austin.
Yeah. I have been there before, but I was there on a training trip for when I was doing crew in college, and so like we didn't really get to enjoy it, and it was always so frustrating because it was like our spring training trip, and it was like during South by Southwest, and we couldn't go to anything.
Yeah. That's how I feel about New Orleans. I've been to New Orleans twice in my life. Once was when I was a teenager with my parents, and the second was a band trip.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I played trombone. I played trombone in my marching band, in my high school marching band. And my freshman year of high school, my band went down to play in the Sugar Bowl down there. It was the Florida Gators versus the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame. Yeah.
What a matchup.
Yeah, it was pretty, like, I'm not a big football person, but it was really cool because it was our band from my little small town in Illinois, and then it was like 4 or 5 other bands from across the country that we were all coming together to do the halftime show. And we were all doing the same halftime show, right? So we all learned the music and everything. And then it's basically just a stand and play kind of thing. We weren't doing any formations or anything like that, which I'm thankful for, because about 2 days before we took the trip, I broke my pinky toe. And I don't know if you've ever broken a toe. There's not really much you can do, but put it back into place and then wrap it around.
It sounds painful. So small, but it is a big deal.
Yeah,
breaking your toes.
It's a big deal.
It's not, because it's so uncomfortable.
Yes, breaking a pinky toe makes you appreciate pinky toes. It really does. I have such a newfound respect for that.
It's so funny because it's like the smallest thing. So like when I was rowing, I started getting pain in my ring finger, which like most of the muscles that you use for rowing are like your quads and your back muscles. Yeah. But like if you can't hold on to the handle,
that's bad.
You can't do any of that.
Yeah, because you got to row.
Yeah. Oh, but real quick, going back to the yoga.
Oh, yes.
The craziest part about that. So another really cool thing that they had in the garden was they had all these origami statues, which were really gorgeous.
Origami? So paper?
Origami in the garden. You should look that up. They're like metal structures that look like origami. But we went and talked to the teacher after the class was over. And she was from Braintree, Massachusetts.
What?
And her sister is still in the Boston area and teaches yoga classes. And so we're definitely going to go look her up. Or I'm going to go look her up when I get back to Boston.
Here's the... So this is the Wellfield Botanical Gardens.
Yes. And there's just like...
I love this. 2021, the year of peace.
Yeah.
Origami in the garden. Oh, look at that. I don't know if... let me see if I can zoom in on that.
There you go. Look at that little Pegasus.
Look at that. That is beautiful. Oh, my God. That's so cool.
Yeah, and a lot of the garden was sort of... a lot of the garden was sort of Japanese style. And then they had like a pagoda, and oh my gosh, it was great.
That sounds amazing. Have you been to the sculpture? There's a sculpture park around here in the, I can't remember what it's called. Tina Tallon probably knows the name of it. So we're going to probably be seeing it in the chat anytime or not. She might not know, and I might just be putting so much pressure on her to figure it out. But it's a really cool like sculpture park. That's really, really, really pretty. Yes, De Cordova. Thank you, Tina. See, I knew she'd know.
I love sculpture parks.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I've been to one in the Twin Cities. in Minnesota, and it's just it seems so silly, but you just like walking around outside and looking at things.
Mm-hmm.
But like so much work, the sculptures there's so much work that go into sculptures, and I like them. That's what fascinates me about them.
Yeah.
It's like, how did they do that?
Yeah, especially the really big ones. Like they got to get up there. They got to they're probably welding or like some sort.
You got goggles on. There's heat. You don't know what could happen.
You don't. The best we do is be a tree in the background during an improv scene. We stand like this.
Your tree is much better than my tree. Hold on, I need like
trees are
trees
are my strong suit. That's my improv strong suit.
It is tree genius.
I literally I play the most believable trees on stage. You have no idea. My tree work is spot on, and there are many pictures to prove it. Like for some reason, that's my go-to move, and I don't know why. Thank you, Rachel, for backing me up on that. I really do. Also, hello, Rachel. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Hello.
Well, speaking of trees and things that grow on them,
yes,
we have our national day today is National Apple Turnover Day.
Yum!
I love me some apple turnovers.
That's a very Midwestern dessert.
Nothing like a nice hot apple turnover with a scoop of vanilla ice cream next to it. Oh,
so good.
So good.
So good.
Why it's National Apple Turnover Day, I have no idea. The website I was on had no information on that. Snapple. Yeah. We gotta get that We gotta get that Snapple money.
Snapple, if you're watching, please
Snapple,
give us money.
Right here, give us money. So I've decided today to instead of doing a trivia question about apple turnovers, which we all know are delicious.
Yes.
No question about that.
Absolutely not.
And I could find surprisingly little like trivia information about apple turnovers. I did find quite a bit of trivia information on just straight up apples.
They're the most interesting fruit. I could talk about them.
Did you know apples are in the rose family?
What? I didn't know that.
Apples are in the rose family.
Philology is wild, y'all.
Right? So here's my trivia question today. Here it is. In the U.S., how many different varieties of apples are grown? Just in the U.S., how many different varieties of apples are grown? There's so many.
I don't know if I should save this until after we answer the trivia question. Can we leave a little bit of time to talk about apples after the trivia question?
We could literally spend the rest of the show talking about apples if you'd like. I mean, I'm sure Tina has. We could bring Tina on. I'm sure Tina will have some.
Tina's got to know about
She's got to know something about apples. Like she's so smart and she knows so much about so many things that apples just have to be something.
Apples are one of the most genetically diverse plants in existence. I read a whole book about this in middle school for extra credit, and they're focused on four different plants that are incredibly genetically diverse. Apples, cannabis, tulips, and potatoes.
Oh my goodness. I love all four of those things.
They're all amazing.
Boof Wellington, yeah, using the emotes. You're a little on the low side there, Boof. A little on the low side, I will say.
Incredible.
You're lowballing it there. But apples
are actually, you cannot take a seed from an apple and grow the same kind of apple tree. You have to graft. So you plant an apple tree and you start growing it, but then you have to take a branch from the existing apple tree that you want and you graft it onto the new tree. So basically,
Really?
yeah, you're basically taping a branch from a previous apple tree onto the new one,
And then the
they
tree
sort of
becomes
fuse
that.
together. Yeah,
That's effing crazy.
it's absolutely insane. Yeah, the Strandrew, they all come. Well, so it's of one apple variety. They all come from the same tree. Basically, it's the same.
So like the original apple tree.
The original type of apple.
Oh,
right.
okay.
So with the Honeycrisp,
Let's get some Scotch tape. Yep, just get some
Scotch tape. Just
get some
wrap it up
Scotch
real
apple
good.
tape. Aren't Scotch apples a thing? No, those are Scotch eggs. Never mind.
Those are Scotch eggs.
Yeah, that's comparing apples to eggs, which is not something you can do.
I never thought we'd do on this show, but yeah.
Huh.
So
all right.
Amazing.
Well,
we'll talk more about apples.
Yeah,
later.
stay tuned for the end of the show where we take our we do our apple conversation to around 2.
You're gonna love it.
So yeah, so stick around
I'm
at the end
excited.
of the show. Awesome. So and then also real quick, I want to do. It's an interesting fact of the day, like on what happened this day. On July 5th, 1996, you remember Dolly? A female Finn Dorset sheep was born near Edinburgh, becoming the first successfully cloned mammal from an adult cell. I should say from an adult cell, not the first cloned mammal, but the first cloned mammal from an adult cell, which I don't know 100% what that means, but I read that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Reading is good.
Yeah. And
every time cloning
Dolly
gets brought up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Every time cloning gets brought up. So I remember reading this article. I remember when it happened. I remember in 1996 reading about this in maybe a kids magazine or something like that. And they had a picture of the sheep. And every time somebody mentions any kind of cloning, the picture I get a flashback. The picture just comes up in my brain and I'm like, sheep.
Sheep. Yeah. What's cool is Dolly actually had a baby. Like Dolly had a baby too, to prove that you could a cloned animal can still reproduce.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So and evidently Tina Tallon clones animals all the time. So she has we're gonna bring her on screen and she's gonna have so many cloned animals. It's a hobby of hers. Some people do the rock tumbling. Tina Tallon clones
I like
animals.
making rock shiny.
Yeah. Tina likes to take a hamster and make a bunch of hamsters. That's all the same hamster.
If I could do that.
Yeah.
I
Whenever
would.
I think cloning, I always think of the Michael Keaton classic Multiplicity, which is a very, very funny movie. I don't know how well it holds up. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it's Michael Keaton, Andy McDowell, and
it's a great cast.
Oh, Eugene Levy's in that movie.
Oh, I'm sold now.
Yeah, it is a good.
sold.
It is a
The
great
Stranger agrees
movie.
with you.
And
Excellent.
if the Stranger agrees, done.
Especially about movies, because he's watching a movie. He's watching a bunch of movies this year. How much is it? One movie a week or something like that?
Oh yeah,
He's got a goal. He's a man on a mission.
Stranger, how many movies have you watched? If you could let us know in the chat how many movies you've watched so far over the summer, or is there a specific time?
The year 2021.
2021. Okay.
So starting in January.
He's had some time.
He's had some time. He's consulting the list.
He's going to consult the list. Okay, great. Well, while the Strandrew consults the list, I think we should just bring out our guest, because our guest is going to be joining us for the remainder of the show. I'm very excited. She's coming on to hang out with us and chat with us. This person is amazing. She has been a supporter of 2MB pretty much from day one. She has been in the chat since we started 2MB Studios, and it seems like every week I've learned something new about her. She is a composer. She is a vocalist. She is a computer musician.
Wow.
Yeah, she's an educator. She's just an all-around awesome human being. Let's welcome to the show Dr. Tina Tallon.
Tina Tallon.
Dr. Tina Tallon, good morning.
Good morning. Thank
Hello.
you so much for that incredibly kind introduction.
I mean,
Hi,
you're
love.
basically a 2MB celebrity. You're
well, thank you for making me feel like a celebrity. That's so kind of you. So kind.
Well,
of you.
as far as the people that have been watching this channel the longest, the three of us on camera right now are probably
we have the most cumulative
watching of the channel.
Well, I mean,
so welcome.
Thank you. And thanks for all you do for 2MB. I mean, it's been such a gift throughout the pandemic. I think I had just started getting into improv right before the pandemic started.
Mm-hmm.
I was like about to sign up for my first class at Improv Boston, and then everything went sideways. So it's been awesome to be able to spend time with folks this way. I've never met most people. I think I've only ever met like 3 people who are on this channel in real life. So
yeah, Tina, you were
wild.
one of those people that I feel like I've hung out with. I think we were talking about this earlier. We were talking about this last night, where it's like I feel like I spent the pandemic with you.
Right, exactly.
And yet we've never met in person.
We've never met in person.
And that is like, and I'm starting to meet people though. Like Jess Bryant is another one of those people. She hosts Sim the Jess on 2MB. She's on Quarantine Action Wrestling. She does the Midnight Creep Out. Like she does all these shows, and I see her almost every day.
Part of the family now.
Part of the family, but I had never met her in person until Memorial Day weekend.
See, I need to start venturing outside of my house more. I've basically just been
it's
locked down pretty
Tina.
tightly. I mean,
Don't
you know,
leave. It's not safe.
it's not safe. Well, I mean,
The Delta
we've all
Street.
experienced-
Don't go to the
exactly. The Delta, don't go. I also have road tripped across the country on a number of occasions. I did grad school in San Diego, so I road tripped from Boston to San Diego and then back from San Diego to Boston. By myself. And that was terrifying. So like when I came back to Boston, it was over the winter of 2017 and 2018. So I left on like December 26th and got here, I think on January 2nd. It was the day before that enormous blizzard where we got the like bomb cyclone in 2018.
Yeah. I remember
everything shut down. Yeah,
that
I got
cyclone
like 2
was
parking
bomb.
tickets. It was so bomb. And I just got here, moved, did not have any furniture, and had like ordered a bunch of furniture to be shipped. And it was all delayed because UPS and everything was just completely snowed in, as was I. So
So you spent
Sleeping
you spent the first few months or your first few weeks in the apartment just
like in a blanket on
like
on
the
the floor.
settlers did.
Right, exactly. So, you know, that was great. It was good times. But Chloe, I totally hear you about being terrified to stay somewhere if you get like a bad vibe off of somebody. Like there were times where like I checked into my hotel. The other thing that was maybe a mistake, it was wonderful, but it was also really bad late at night, is that I had taken podcast suggestions from my friends, and someone suggested My Favorite Murder, which I had never listened to before, but promptly became very addicted to, and I listened to it for like 20 hours a day, and then
that's not healthy. That's not healthy.
And then I had to sleep by myself in like these random motels across the country in the middle of nowhere in the dead of winter. And it was terrifying. Like I would get into my room.
Possible setting.
Yep. I would get into my room, like look under the bed. I would like open the shower curtain and then like barricade my door because I was terrified. That I was
and even then, you never know. Like, did you see that story about the guy that had been videotaping?
Yes.
It's like a Norman Bates kind of thing where he owned a hotel, but he was like video. And he's like, he was doing it to observe people in there. Like, and he's like, no.
And I mean, I don't know if you've heard Dave Thomas's story about the guy in his gym's like air ducts that fell through the ceiling in the women's locker room. Yeah. David was like at the gym pumping iron, and like all of a sudden there's a huge, right. That's like David is known for. And all of a sudden there was a huge commotion and like a bunch of cops showed up and a guy had been like filming people in the women's locker room like from the ceiling. He was inside of like an air duct or something.
And I guess he crashed onto somebody. Like
yes, he actually fell
landed
onto a
on
woman.
this poor woman.
Yeah. So anyway, you can never be too careful.
Do not be it's well, okay, so here's the thing about that. Two things. First of all,
two things.
One, if I could listen to a murder podcast, it would be my favorite murder. It's very funny. It's two improvisers. They're incredible. Highly recommend if you have that capability, but I do not. Two. I heard this recently of like, I would rather go with my gut and be wrong.
Yeah.
Than not go with my gut and be wrong.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. No, yeah. I totally get that. And
it's just like, and especially, especially for women, like if you're getting bad vibes and if you're getting bad vibes, there's a reason for that. Like that we are constantly gaslit about, because we're constantly gaslit about like our feelings about people, but it's like we spend a lot of time, we're trained and brought up to like people please, and so we've had a lot of training in like figuring out what is going to upset people or not, and so like we picked up on those things, and I've never been wrong about another human. I've never been wrong like about the vibes, and you just got to go with it.
You got to go with your gut,
You got to listen to your gut. Yeah.
Can we swear on this show?
You
it says
can.
low
100%.
at the bottom.
Low
okay.
cussing.
Like, low
we
cussing.
haven't sworn at all yet. Like we haven't had any swear words yet. I have a counter that I keep.
We have a counter. Okay.
Yeah, it's like I'm one of those
donate money.
Statistics. Like I'm like one of those statistics people at like a basketball game where like, oh, there's an assist, there's a layup, there's a
You're like throw. The last time that Tina swore on a Tuesday when it was raining in the month of June.
Yeah,
mostly it's with Tina swearing.
It is.
I'm sorry, Tina, that you had to find out like this, but I've been monitoring your
it's all good
speech patterns.
You could very easily take all of the content that I've produced on 2MB and train an artificial intelligent agent on it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to do that for when you're in Rome. I'm going to do that for when you're in Rome, and you probably
just
won't
just make an AI Tina, and then.
Yep.
Tina
2.0.
Just like me. Tina 2.0. Two Tina, two Tallon.
Two Tina, two Tallon.
But the reason I wanted to swear, so like one of the phrases that they often say on My Favorite Murder is fuck politeness, and they're basically saying, if you are super creeped out, do not try to people please, as you said, Chloe. Like don't put yourself below somebody else's prerogative. Just You've got to put your safety 100%. First.
You do not want to end up in a walk-in freezer. That's the last place you want to end up.
No, when we say keep your cool, that's not
what we mean.
We're like chill out. I mean, that said, I do think it's really important for us to critically analyze all of our biases and why we feel the way that we feel in certain situations.
That's true. That's a good point.
I think that that's something, especially as white women, we have to think about our privilege and, intersectionality. And so I do think, given all that, I think it's very worthwhile to think about like, okay, if I'm getting bad vibes, why? What am I reacting to in this situation?
Right.
Yeah.
But I still say like, put your safety first. But like maybe don't call the cops on people like all the time,
No.
Yeah. Because I know anyway, there are much longer conversations to be had there.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Actually, that ties into my research, if I may, in an interesting way.
Perfect segue.
Yeah. I try.
We are this show is as longtime watchers can attest. Chloe and I are amazing at segues. Amazing at segues. Like, if we could just have a show called Segway, it would be hosted by Chloe and I.
And just a segue in the background, just like bumping into the wall.
One person on a Segway just going back and forth behind me.
And then we're just jumping from topic to topic.
Oh, man.
Right. With no connection whatsoever.
No real conversation. Just
the reason we call it Segway is because we have a guy on a Segway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's just a total non sequitur the entire time.
So yeah, Tina, you do a lot of interesting things. You have, like, in the course of your life, you've done a lot of interesting things, and currently you are your current position is, you just got a new position, right?
I did. I will be starting a brand new job. I'm currently unemployed.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Same girl.
But I will be starting. I mean, that's how, especially the summer goes. I will be starting a new position at the University of Florida. I heard you shouted out the Florida Gators earlier.
Go Gators!
Go Gators.
I rooted for the Gators when we were down there in Florida, or in New Orleans, because I felt like I needed to be like, the Gators were I mean, everybody down there from Indiana, there were so many people from Indiana down there supporting Notre Dame and all that. And they were all just obnoxious. But I was like, I was going to be difficult. I was like, go Gators.
Support. I love it. Yeah, I've started. That's part of the reason I have this blazer. It's not as orange as I thought it would be.
It's pretty orange, Tina.
On the internet. Well, it's like a poppy red, so it's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it'll like lighten up a little bit or something. As I wash
it out in the sun,
right? Well, it's sun bleached. It was supposed to be more orange, but in any case, so I'll be starting as assistant professor of AI and the arts at the University of Florida starting in August. Wow. So I'm very excited. First of all, I just feel so lucky and privileged to have a tenure track job after this garbage fire of a year. I don't know if any of you have any friends in academia or in academia at all, but it's a hot mess. Such a hot
I can't
mess.
imagine, because everybody's doing, like, there are no students are coming back to campuses, right? But
it depends. Well, it depends on the school. Yeah, I mean, and some schools are allowed to require vaccinations, some schools aren't. So for instance, in Florida, they're not allowed to require it. And so,
shocking.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said there.
Herd immunity.
They require bath salts, but not vaccines. Sorry. Throwing shade at Chicago, throwing shade at Florida.
As long as you're throwing shade equitably, I say, hey.
It's hot, we need some of that shade.
It gets hot down there. I know. It's been wild to look at houses. And one of the things that's interesting is the apartment that I'm in now has like a wall air conditioning unit, but it's actually the first time I've had air conditioning like in an apartment ever in my life.
Well, you're going to need that down there.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm still getting used to like the concept of air conditioning, but yeah, that's something that's absolutely, when looking at places down there, it's like, it is a necessity.
I spent a week in Sarasota and it was like I walked not even that far. Like, I like to walk. Like, I will either take the public transit or I'll, but if I'm like in Boston, I'll walk wherever.
Oh,
because it's
for
still
sure.
walkable.
Well, it's such a great city to walk
in. It is, but Sarasota, not so much. And it's like you're walking through wet sponges that are soaked in boiling water. It's the worst. It's just hot, gross.
Oppressive,
and then you walk into a building though, and it's like immediately
freeze because
70 degrees cooler.
Yeah, exactly. The temperature differential is just drastic.
Yeah.
So
I had my sister went to University of Florida, and I went to visit her one time. It was so hot and so humid. We were walking around outside, and then it started raining, and I was like,
yes,
oh, this will cool things off.
No.
And then she laughed at me.
Yeah,
because it rains
this is what
every
I've heard.
day.
It is that the
makes it more
thunderstorms
humid.
are bonkers, right? And it's just super humid the whole time. So it's like, I'm getting used to, this is why my hair is currently in its curly natural state. I'm just like, I used to straighten my hair all the time. And I'm like, well, first of all, during the pandemic, why bother? But secondly, I'm like, I'm just going to get used to this because this is how my hair is going to be probably in perpetuity. So you know what? Just get used to it. So I'm embracing it. And it's not so bad. It's working out. But anyway, so yeah, I'm very excited about that. Although, as you mentioned earlier, Matt, I'll be in Rome for a year first. So
right, you're going to Florida by way of Rome.
By way of Rome,
a roundabout way of getting there.
Right, not usually the means by which someone gets to Florida.
But you get to spend a year in Rome, which is pretty cool. What are you going to be doing? What are you going to be doing in Rome?
Yeah, so I have a fellowship at the American Academy in Rome. It's a music composition fellowship, and I will be writing an opera on the social history of voice technology. So this year I've been at Harvard on a fellowship writing a book and also starting to write bits and pieces of the opera, but Rome will be like real crunch time for that opera. So super excited about that.
I mean, if you've got to be someplace to write an opera, how cool is it that you get to be in Rome?
Do it in Rome.
That's
I'm very excited about it. The kitchen at the American Academy is run by Alice Waters, who's the head chef of Chez Panisse in Berkeley. She's like the one who started the farm to table movement for restaurants. So they actually grow most of their food like on the grounds. They have like a small little farm, and they locally source other things that they can't grow. So yeah, it's awesome. It's essentially an all expenses paid trip to Rome for a year. They put you up on the grounds, and they give you a studio. They pay for your meals. It's a dream. It's a dream. So I feel like I'm so lucky. I'm definitely very privileged, to have this opportunity. But yeah, I'm super pumped about it. But
and you said you're writing. Okay, so you're right. Tell me again what you're writing the opera about, because to me, like when I think opera, I think honestly, I'm not going to try to sound smart here because I don't know a lot of operas. I was in an opera, a small opera when I was in college. I had the one non-singing role in the opera, which is
were you a tree?
No, I was not a tree.
You got to use that tree.
I think we've had this conversation, Tina. It was the impresario. I was the impresario in Mozart's Impresario.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I think we have talked about this.
Yeah,
so the lead role.
No, just the title role, not the lead role. I basically sat at a desk while other people sang, and I was just like, because the character like ran the opera house, and he was trying to find a new ingenue or something. And
there are lots of ingenues in opera. Thankfully, there won't be any in mine. It's going to be, trying to take an intersectional feminist lens to things. But yeah, so one of the things that I study in my research is the social history of voice technology. So what are the types of bias that are embedded in things like microphones, right? Or compression algorithms that end up handling all of the sound that goes out over the airwaves. And there are a lot of biases embedded in this technology, like anything, right? And so I'm writing a book about these things, but I'm also writing an opera because I think art can kind of tell these stories in different ways that, reading a book is not going to be everybody's jam. As fun as I want the book to be, it's just not always the best way to convey information. Or, I mean, you can certainly connect with people very differently artistically, I think. You can find different means of telling those stories that aren't really accessible to you just with the written word. So I'm excited to kind of be able to approach it from both of those perspectives.
But yeah,
I'm looking at, thank you. I'm very excited about it. And, I think especially given the opera is called Shrill, by the way, but like given the prominence of that word in recent discourse, given, the number of female candidates for president that we recently had, it came up a lot. And so I'm kind of breaking down what are all the societal and technical components to the prominence of that word. How did that become, one of these pieces of gendered invective that's used to demean women in the spotlight. So the opera is kind of like looking at different historical periods. So starting with telephone switchboard operation, going all the way up to AI, right? Things like Siri and Amazon Alexa, and what are the gendered roles that we associate with different types of servitude.
What Siri voice do you use, Tina? What Siri voice do you use?
I don't use Siri, actually. I don't use Siri. I don't use Amazon Alexa. Yeah, they all kind of creep me out. So weird fun trivia. So the woman who voiced Siri originally, her name is Susan Bennett. I don't know if you might know about this already.
I know about her. I don't know what you're going to say.
I mean, I was just going to say that basically, she was a voice actress, and she had done a bunch of recording one summer for like a voice research company that Apple later then bought. And all of the recordings that she made was considered an asset of that company. And so when Apple acquired the company, they also acquired her recordings, which they then used to create the voice of Siri.
Without paying her a dime.
Nope, she got no remuneration for that. They didn't ask her permission because when she signed her contract, like for the original company way back when, so she found out because like one of her friends got like a MacBook, because I think Siri originally came out on like the 2010 or 2011 MacBook before it came to mobile. And so one of her friends was like trying out this cool new thing, and she was like, oh my God, that sounds like Susan, and like sent her a clip. And like, Susan was like, me. Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's the worst way to find out you're the voice of Siri.
Yeah. So when we look at like the history of exploitation, particularly of women and especially of people of color, as we were talking about earlier before the show, I'm going to be looking also at the Navajo code talkers, right? And how has the U.S. government, particularly the military industrial complex, appropriated the labor and the technology of indigenous peoples? And so, the history of exploitation.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Oh, so much.
Which is, I mean, good if you're writing an opera on the subject, right? Because you have a lot of source material. I do want to real quick.
What were they using the Navajo language for?
So it was considered a code that was uncrackable, essentially. And so they would have people on either side who could speak this language, but nobody else in the world knew it. And so they cryptographically, it was considered a code that couldn't be broken by enemy forces.
Which you're taught in school, like at least I was taught in school that this was like such a cool idea that was it's like that's what you're taught. But then, when you think about it, you're like, no, they basically appropriated that language, and it's like,
it's complicated, right? All of these things are very, very complicated, and so, there's, as you said, there's a lot to unpack, and again, with the history of colonialism, and conquest and empire, that of course our country is deeply involved with.
We've got a problem. The United States has a problem with that.
And I mean, voice technology in general is inextricable from the military industrial complex. Like radio, microphones, all of the stuff, recording technology, all of these things were developed as tools of war initially, right? Or to make the waging of war. And in fact, Siri actually started as like a government project, or like the initiative to develop something like Siri. There was a program sponsored by DARPA in the 70s called CALO, C-A-L-O, that was actually designed to do a lot of speech research in order to make like an automated what's the word I'm looking for? Secretarial position, essentially, to automate like secretarial work on the front lines so that you don't need to send people into the field. So, it's either commerce or war, that's usually what a lot of these tools were made for.
Yeah, that's what makes unfortunately, that's what makes the what people consider the world go round.
Right. And so I think like as artists, we have a responsibility to like critically analyze our use of these tools. And I mean, even like last night I was thinking about the use of the cannons in Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture, right? And it's like literally like, I don't know if you saw the Boston Pops live broadcast, but it's like, we have cannons at an orchestra concert. What is going on? Like that is bananas. And I actually had to play the cannons once at I won't name the symphony, but I got hired to do live video for a symphony, and I showed up and they're like, oh, we need someone to play the cannons.
I mean, honestly, though, that's a pretty cool thing to get to play. I mean,
it was cool, and I think there's a novelty of the spectacle that's like really engaging, right? But when you think about it, you're like, I am firing cannons in a concert, and there were definitely members of the orchestra who wore like these giant sound isolating headphones, and still like jumped every time the cannons went off. And I'm like, we're subjecting people to the tools, the instruments of war at a symphony concert. Like, is that really necessary?
Especially when you got timpanis right there. You got timpanis. You could make the canon sound with
timpanis.
And famously, Tchaikovsky hated the piece. He actually wrote after the fact about how much he hated it. Yeah, he did not like the piece and how it became used. So, and honestly, also ironically, yeah, it has nothing to do with the U.S. Actually, the story about how it became associated with July 4th is very interesting because it was written by a Russian composer, to commemorate, the fact that they pushed back Napoleon's army. So it has nothing to do with the U.S. at all.
Well, we like to take
French
things.
National anthem in it,
all about us. So.
The U.S. likes to take things and be like, "We're going to use this now. It's ours now."
Right.
We were
Give it to me.
Yep.
We were having a brunch with a couple. They're my parents' friends, and they were talking about when they were traveling in Europe, and they talked about being in France, and they were on this cruise, and so they had to they were doing this little tour thing or whatever, and then the tour guide was like, to get back to the boat, you just cross the bridge, and then you'll find the boat, which was not great directions. But they crossed the bridge, and then they didn't know which way to turn.
Oh no!
And they kept trying to ask people in France for help, and they were like, no one spoke English, and no one wanted to help us.
Yeah, I lived in Paris for a summer, and they're not a fan of the Americans by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, we haven't really given them a reason to be. I mean,
right. I mean, to be fair,
the trick is, so the trick is that you have to attempt to speak French. If you attempt to speak French, they are much nicer and they will try to help you out. But if you just walk up to them and you're like, "Do you speak American?" They're not into that.
They're like, "Get out, learn my language."
And it was, but the whole expectation of we are in a foreign country and they should speak English to us. I was like, that's not how that works.
I think it's it's really important. I've been thinking about this a lot. I also run a summer music program that usually happens in Tuscany in Italy. And, we've been talking a lot about what does it mean to run a summer program in Italy, especially for students. It's for young professionals and students who are composers and performers. And of course, there are huge equity issues because not everybody's going to be able to afford a plane ticket to Europe. Right. And so we're thinking about ethically, is it appropriate that we're running this summer program in a foreign country? But of course, there's a lot of complicated issues. We are bringing money to the local economy there. We have a lot of great relationships with small businesses. But I do think it, on some level, and it's a longer conversation to have, but I do think on some level, it is important for Americans to be able to have the opportunity to travel and to understand what it's like to know that you're not the center of the world, right?
Yeah.
I first traveled internationally in 2012, I think, for the first time. And it was absolutely eye-opening for me to be like, cool, now you have to make it around in a place where you don't speak the language. And I think it's important to have that experience. I realize there are huge equity issues. Not everybody has the access to resources to be able to travel. And so
I feel like travel should be one of those things that I don't know. I feel like that should be something that's included in something, right? Especially in education, right? Where you're like, okay, as a group, we're going to go someplace that you've never been before. I worked at this summer camp for a couple of summers, and it was amazing. These camps will hire students from the UK and Europe and Russia, all these. They'll bring all these people in to work at the summer camp because parents love sending their kids places where they will get a little bit of cultural difference, and staffing a camp is. And honestly, it's probably very cheap to, get students to come over to the US and, but the students in the UK, they travel all over the place.
Yeah,
they're constantly going to other countries, But it's I don't know. I think it's easier for them to,
it's
because
a lot
they
easier
can,
in Europe too.
Right,
go
because
to a place
you go
where
a couple
you don't
hours
speak
and
the
you're in a different
language.
country.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're much more proximal, and there's a much higher like heterogeneity of languages and cultures in the EU as opposed to in the US. But I think that experience of realizing that it doesn't revolve, the world does not revolve around us, is extremely important, and having to navigate the reality of not knowing a language, or only having a basic understanding of a language. It's important, and I think
Honestly,
it builds empathy. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. Is I think it makes people more empathetic, and
even just going to
better citizens of our own country.
Even just going to a different region of the United States is mind blowing. Like
that's very true.
I got the Midwest and the East Coast are very, very different. I come back here and I no one else has blue hair. Like people don't dye their hair crazy colors because you can't get a job that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't have tattoos. It's a lot of in the summer everybody wears t-shirts and jeans. And I come in with my fancy city clothes and I'm like
East Coaster.
I know, right?
East Coast elites.
Very strange and out of place. And there are a lot of, I've got a lot of dresses that are two pieces. They have cutouts and stuff like that. And I can't wear those. I feel like I have to cover myself.
Yeah. Right.
And it's the difference in values and how people operate. Coming back here, I'm reminded that I'm a country girl. I'm in a nice, I grew up in Green Lake has a lake. And so there are a lot of people that have vacation homes there. So the town actually has quite a bit of money. And so it's actually it's still a really nice town, but it's still the things that people do for fun are so different. Everyone goes out on the lake. Everybody knows how to swim. Everybody knows about, just hunting season, farming,
oh yeah,
hunting is huge.
There. Yeah.
Hunting is huge. I never got in, I'm a Midwesterner, born and raised, Central Illinois, grew up, and kids would take their parents would call them out of school on the first day of deer season. The first day of deer season, there would be 7 or 8 kids in my class that weren't there. And it's they're out deer hunting with their parents. And I'm like, what? I mean, my mom is from Michigan. I mean, my parents were both Midwesterners too. But I don't know. My parents were never really into the hunting and things. Yeah. My mom was not she hated hunters because we lived in the middle of the woods, and there were during hunting season, it was dangerous to go into the woods
constantly. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm from Maryland, but I'm from just south of Baltimore. But my brother has a farm. Actually, my brother has an emu farm.
That's amazing. I love emus.
Incredible.
I think they have peacocks now. It's always hard. It's a constantly rotating.
Well, you know what they say, where there's emus.
My brother's farm. Where there's emus, there's peacocks.
Yeah.
But, I grew up with guns all over the place. My brother has guns. I remember, like you were saying, the first day of school, I remember, or the first day of hunting season, our principal at my high school had to make an announcement, as a reminder that crossbows are weapons and are not allowed on school property, because people would just have guns and rifles and crossbows just in the bed of their pickup trucks, because after classes they're heading out to the woods to go shoot some deer. Yeah, the senior prank by a cohort of students. they had gone duck hunting and they took the heads of ducks and put them on the door handles on all of the outside. Yeah, it was just not good. People released squirrels.
Wow, are you sure you didn't grow up in the Midwest? Because that's
that's the weird thing. I know that's the super weird thing. It's like kind of feel like I did in a way. I mean, Maryland gets rural very, very quickly.
Very quick. Yeah. Because once you get out of like because it, God, I'm even so bad with my East Coast geography.
Yeah.
Even the difference between even in the same state of like going to the city versus the country of like, you know, Madison it's a college town. It's incredibly liberal. Like it's got all of the really cool culture and stuff, and you go like 2 hours away from that, it's a whole different world.
Yes, exactly.
A whole new world. We can't sing anymore, or we'll get.
That's right.
We'll get flagged.
We'll get flagged for the.
So all that AI going through and listening to us listening.
So if we want to blame anybody for getting pinged for copyright, we can blame Tina Tallon, because
that's right.
This is the work.
All me.
This is the work that she does.
Recently, so weirdly enough, this is something that I've been doing research on and we'll probably be writing a paper about soon. So recently cops have been playing music. I'm sure you've seen this. Cops have been playing music while people film them so that their YouTube videos get flagged for copyright infringement. Yeah. So it's interesting again how the apparatus of the state manages to use things like AI, right? To lots to unpack there. There's lots to unpack.
And I can't imagine taking the officer seriously if he's pulling you over and playing like Semi-Charmed Life, or any Eagle Eye Cherry, which I recently found out is his name. I didn't know that. Did you know that? That Eagle Eye Cherry is his name. It's not the name of the band. I mean, it is the name of the band, but it's also the dude's name.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
that's so interesting.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, Clay. I don't know if this might have been an episode that you weren't here for. No.
That would be great for Tookie for the rehash when they have the names of.
They have the names of things. Eagle Eye Cherry.
Moon Unit. Yeah, Moon Unit Zappa. Yeah. I love Moon Unit.
Moon Unit Zappa. My dad's a big Frank Zappa fan. Now, are you a Frank Zappa? Like, it sounds to me like listening to some of the music that you've created, and then listening to, having listened to like Frank Zappa and stuff has he been like? Is that a person that you've listened to a bunch? Like, do you know?
Not when I originally started composing. So I actually grew up. I mean, maybe not surprising, given what I just said, in like a very conservative household. Like my dad listened to Rush Limbaugh, and my mother's like extremely religious, so she wouldn't let me listen to popular music growing up. So it was all like church music, basically hymns. No. That's it. She wouldn't even let me listen to Christian rock because she said that electric guitars and drums are Satan's counterfeit. Like she called Christian rock, quote unquote, Satan's counterfeit.
We would have things at our church. We would have youth group meetings in our church where we would watch videos about how like not satanic, but like how some music was satanic, and how some of like Whitney Houston is telling you to do bad things.
You play it backwards. Then,
okay.
My mom was super into all that. So I actually never got to listen to popular music, like basically until I got to college. I mean, I would listen to stuff at my friend's house, and I also was a camp counselor.
Listen to Debbie Gibson.
Yeah, I remember like, we're gonna listen to Britney Spears. One of my best friends, her name was Harveen. I love her. She's a math teacher in Georgia, middle school math teacher.
Shout out to math teachers in Georgia.
Hells yeah, math teachers in Georgia. Any teachers, any primary, and I mean like primary teachers, amazing. Secondary teachers, anybody who doesn't teach college. As a college teacher, I'm like, I have so much respect for the people who don't teach college. I mean, I also have respect for people who teach college as well. But that comes with its own set of issues. But especially public school teachers who teach K through 12, like, oh my gosh, can we please raise their pay?
Oh man, some of it almost went into teaching.
Money.
It's ridiculous.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. So like the never-ending amount of respect that I have for K through 12 teachers is just huge props to K through 12 teachers.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she would like introduce me to Britney Spears and the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. So a lot of my popular music education came from Harveen. Bless her soul.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't listen to anything weird like until college, basically. And not even then until like my senior year. So the comment about cloning, I actually was not kidding. So I started out as a bioengineering major and I did cancer research, and we actually cloned mice all the time. So we ended up
we're almost out of mice. All right, we still got the original. It's fine.
Put a couple in the petri dish.
Yeah. So we've got to genetically engineer mice to create like mouse models for cancer and other types of human diseases. And so that involves like once you get one that has like the genetics that you like, you have to clone it. Or crossbreed them to get different mixes of stuff. So I have actually cloned
that just
a lot
like
of mice.
To me, that's like, you get to the end of it's like, okay, when you get to the last page of we only have one more of these forms left. You got to go make some copies, or else we're going to be out of forms.
Yep. We're going to be out of the mice. Go to the mice copier. But in any case, so I didn't start doing music until my senior year of college. I got really burned out, and a lot of people, not a lot. Some people take gap years before they go on to do medical school because you're like, I'm going to be in medical school for the next 15 years. And do I really want to do 15 more years of school now? So I was already super hella burned out. So I was like, well, before I do that, I'm going to take a break, but I have to stay in school because otherwise I have to start paying back on my student loans. So I'll just go to more school as my break.
You have to keep getting school or join the military.
Get a high-paying job. Exactly. Wasn't going to get a high-paying job.
Or change your identity. I tried to do that. Right. I just tried to dodge them for years. And it worked for a while, but
I'm not really on a road trip. I'm on the run.
I'm on the run.
Chloe's on the land.
From my student debt. Yeah.
Please don't tell the authorities where I am.
It can't even be dispersed in death, I don't think. Like, I think even if you die, your next of kin is still responsible for your student loans. Like, they cannot be dismissed in bankruptcy. I don't even think that they're dismissed in death. I think I could be wrong on that. Definitely not in bankruptcy.
You guys remember the last scene of Fight Club where they just blow up all the banks and they just watch Helen Bonham Carter and Ed Norton are just standing there and all the banks are just blowing up. And I feel like that's probably, I don't want to say too much on the internet, but I feel like that should be something.
The student debt crisis is,
it's a real crisis.
For the last year, not having had to pay on my
Sorry,
student
Kit,
loans,
for the spoiler of Fight Club. It's a 20-year-old movie.
Also, I have not been paying it. I realized I haven't been paying attention to the chat. I'm so sorry, chat. I apologize if folks have said things. And
you're busy, Tina. You're busy talking to us.
I know. I'm usually better at. Laurie Anderson. Okay. Oh my gosh, Kit Tevin just asked about Laurie Anderson, whom I adore. Love Laurie Anderson. Big science. I didn't discover Laurie Anderson until college. Grad school. So not even in college. I didn't hear Oh Superman until until my master's degree, which is a tragedy. Everybody should go listen to Oh Superman right now.
I did not discover Laurie Anderson until I was this many years old.
This moment.
Amazing.
Just this moment.
Oh my God. Go look up Oh Superman. It's an amazing, amazing piece. The music video is awesome. But yeah, she's an incredible artist in all respects, not just in terms of music. But yeah, one of those people that I really wished I would have learned about in my college music classes. The few of them that I took before my senior year when I suddenly decided I wanted to be a music major.
So you didn't decide you were going to be a music major until my senior year.
Wow.
Holy shit.
I had to take 8 classes a semester to catch up because I didn't have the requirements to graduate with a music degree. It was brutal. All the time cloning mice, in lab, and then I go and write music in the evenings. It was not recommended, but yeah, somehow it worked out. So anyway, yeah, my music's kind of weird. Not gonna lie. It's kind of more on the experimental side of things compared to what folks are still. A lot of people actually compare it to film music, especially for horror films.
I was going to say, I was listening to some of it this morning.
In a horror film.
Yeah,
which I don't disagree with. Yeah,
there's a lot
disturbing and creepy.
Yeah, like smaller sounds, sounds like that little ambient kind of stuff.
Very textural.
Yeah,
it's very textural. Yeah.
You do a lot of stuff with the string people, like hitting their.
Yep.
Is that? I wanted to ask a question as I was watching the videos of the musicians, the instrumentalists is what I was the word I was looking for. I don't know. I'm trying to sound smart for you, Tina. It's very hard for me to do.
Don't worry about it.
But is that good for the bow? Like, is that good for the bow?
That is a fantastic question. Oh my God. And I'm sure
because that shit's not cheap. Those things aren't cheap.
There are string players out there right now who are probably cheering that you're asking that question. Yeah. So different people have different comfort levels, but many string players actually have like shitty bows that they use for that type of stuff. Yeah, just because
Shitty Bows was my improv group name in college.
Shitty Bows.
Shitty Bows.
But yeah, so it can like destroy the finish on the bow. Also with the bow hair, it frequently falls out when you're doing some of the like rougher stuff.
It's going to lose its hair.
So folks will have kind of like a not so fancy bow for those types of techniques that they'll use. But I mean, really with all of this stuff, I most enjoy working with musicians that I know and have close collaborations with because we kind of share a sonic language, we share an understanding. And there's also this issue of consent that's really important, right? Especially since a lot of the music I've written involves like the subject matter deals with trauma. A lot of my music, I did my dissertation on trauma and electronic music. And so, you know, having these conversations with musicians is really, really important to make sure everybody's on the same page, and to make sure you're not asking them to do something that they're not uncomfortable doing, that they're not comfortable doing.
Right.
And so for me, like that's consent. The issue of consent is always at the foremost. And that's why I really like collaborating with individual musicians who I develop a relationship with. I don't like lots of composers just want their music to get performed widely and make a lot of money from royalties and whatnot. And I actually really prefer to be in touch with the musicians that I'm working with. And, you know, I do get people who I don't know who ask me to play my music and, you know, sometimes I don't let people play some pieces. Yeah. There are some pieces where it's like, it's a really near and dear piece to me. And I feel like there are conversations that need to be had for it to really, be advocated for the best way that I'm not necessarily comfortable having with someone that I don't know. So, I think all of those types of considerations make their way into my practice as a musician. But yeah, consent is always important in anything. In anything. But yeah, so musicians will often have like a different bow that they use for those types of things just because it can get a little bit wonky. Like I am a string player. I have like a cello in my closet and 2 violins under the bed, and like I have like 5 different bows that I use.
I love the idea that in your apartment you just have string instruments hidden away.
Hidden
everywhere. Yeah. And whenever you have somebody over and they're like, would you play for me? You can just, anywhere that you are, you can just grab it.
You never,
I pull it from
got
behind
one
their
strapped
ear,
to the table, strapped to the
It's
underside
under
of the
the
table. Hold on,
exactly.
I'm not prepared for this at all. I'm so embarrassed.
Don't ask me to play. Don't ask me to play.
It's like that scene in Anchorman where he pulls the flute out of his sleeve, and he's got do you just play string instruments, or do you play other instruments?
No,
as well?
I play all kinds of weird stuff. I would say that my primary instrument is actually the laptop. Like, so as a computer musician, you know, I'm super into electronics.
So I do
a ton of electronic music. I write my own software. I specialize in something called live electronics. So this idea that like I am making sounds live. It's not pre-recorded. There are some folks who'll just kind of like, if you see a piece that's for like cello and electronics, sometimes it's just for cello and like playback, right? So it's just you press space bar, you know, and the music play, or the electronic part plays, and the cellist has to like sync up with it. Sometimes they have what's called a click track, so there'll be like a little series of clicks playing in your ears. So that also happens in film music as well, very commonly, so that folks are kind of hitting all of the time points that they need to. But with my music, I find it really exciting to make everything happen on the fly because we'll do it live. You know?
We'll do it live. I mean, there's that exhilaration of live
it really
live
is.
performance.
It can go very wrong in a lot of ways. So there is a.
I mean, that's why people. That's why people rock climb, right? It's like
this is true.
It goes really well until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't. Yeah. So always have a plan B and C and D. Plans A through Z whenever you're doing live electronics. But basically, I write software that takes the sounds from the instruments, or sometimes it just makes them from nothing, from numbers that I give the computer, and it responds to what the instruments are playing. Or in some cases, it actually influences what they're playing. So I have a piece where I have a transducer, which is something that it's like it's a speaker basically that sits on the back of a viola. It's very tiny, and it vibrates the viola with different types of sounds. And so if you're we were talking about like these little tiny sounds that I like, if you're having the violist do something that's like very nuanced and like very, very brittle and fragile in terms of the type of sounds that they're making, like any tiny vibration on the instrument can actually like make the player do something differently, right? Because it might bounce your bow around slightly differently or something like that. And so in that way, like the computer can actually influence what the performer is doing. And so again, kind of looking at these relationships of like power and agency and control, and how do we use electronic music to kind of question some of these traditional power structures that we think of in music, right? Where the performer has control over the instruments. Like, what happens if they don't? What happens if there's an artificially intelligent agent making decisions about sounds to put through the instrument, right? That are then influencing the performer's ability to interact with their instrument in the ways that they typically expect. So,
man, Tina, I want you to do like. I want you to come back on the show and like have your computer set, like have like all that stuff set up and do like, I would love to hear some of that, like
we can
live, right? That. Where you talk us through it, because that sounds so cool. Do you ever play a theremin? Do you have one of those where
So I have a thing. So I have played theremins before. I don't have one in this apartment right now. It's not hidden away anywhere, unfortunately. I used to have one. Or is it? But I do have something. I created something called the face theremin, which basically uses machine learning to take a live video feed of your face and to like make sounds. So it's like you're singing, but you're using your face to control this thing. Because really all a theremin is, right, is just taking two different parameters. Right?
I just want to do that for like an hour. I just want to boot that up, do a live stream where it's just me going.
Yeah, and I mean, you can make it make whatever sounds you want, right? Like, it's just, again, a theremin is just looking at the distance of one hand from the antenna and this distance of the other hand from a different antenna, right? It's just two numbers that you're dealing with. And so any way that you get a stream of numbers from an instrument, you can do these sorts of things with.
We've come a long way from the piccolo.
The piccolo. From the tutti flute.
Which honestly, the piccolo is one of my favorite. If we go back to talk about like the marches and things like that, I went through a marching band phase. I was in marching band in high school, and I went through a big John Philip Sousa phase where I loved listening to those marches. Oh my God, there was just something about, like, I don't know what it was, but like I just loved hearing it. Like, I played trombone, so I was a brass guy. I mean, so I really enjoyed that, right? But the piccolo part of I think it's Stars and Stripes Forever.
Oh, it cuts
that piccolo part through. I loved that. Like, that was like, I was like, this is so cool. Like, it sounds so cool that this little bitty flute, like
the
this tiny little flute, can be heard over all this brass. It's amazing.
Well, psychoacoustically, we are actually more sensitive.
What did you just say to me, kid? You got something to say, kid?
Psychoacoustic. In terms of music cognition, we're actually more sensitive. Like, the human hearing apparatus is more sensitive to those higher frequencies, which is part of the reason that things like that stick out. Because, I mean, if you think like in nature, right, like bird calls are typically much more higher pitched, but especially warning calls, right? So our ears, just from lizard brain days, are very well attuned to those things. We're more sensitive to those sounds in that frequency range because we don't want to die. So that's part of the reason that we find the piccolo to be so cutting.
How about that? I
and
never
then it
knew
stands
that.
out.
Yeah.
Yep. This is the same reason with like sopranos in orchestras. It's very difficult.
Not the show The Sopranos.
Not the show The
Sopranos okay, got it. In the musical.
But like, say if you have like a singer with a high voice, right, in an orchestra, going to be much easier to hear that singer than to hear a mezzo because their voice is situated in a range that, first of all, is kind of like in the middle of the orchestra frequency wise. But
and don't sopranos know it? Ugh.
Don't they know it? No, they don't.
Are you what part do you sing, Tina? Where do you consider where does your voice?
Yeah, where's your vocal range?
That is a point of much contention amongst many choir directors. So I have like a really big range. I am a classically trained singer, and I have sung a lot of different things. I'm not what's called a coloratura soprano, so I do not have the highest of the high range. I'm not going to be singing like Queen of the Night anytime soon. But yeah, in terms of how I self-identify, quite frankly, the word that I just use is vocalist. I think there's also a lot of weird like gender issues associated with different voice parts, and also the system that's used to classify singers and the different types of roles that are considered.
What is it? SATB?
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff associated with that like, is really outdated at this point in terms of how we view gender. So I just call myself a vocalist. I also do a lot of weird stuff with my voice that my voice teachers back in college were horrified by. You're gonna ruin your chords!
What are you doing?
Yeah, so
have you
that
tried
was
the throat
fun.
singing? Have you?
Oh yes.
Do you remember when Ryan?
Yes, when Ryan was learning the throat singing.
I don't know if Boof is still in the chat or not, but I'm wondering how that throat singing, if he continued on the throat singing, or if he just
I mean, he was getting there, but but again, with that, right, there are a lot of conversations to be had about cultural appropriation as well. So that's another thing where it's like, again, as artists, we need to be really sensitive to the different performing traditions and practices around the world. And again, this issue of consent, and especially with vocalists, because a lot of the classical Western training has given people a specific tone quality that they're striving for, and maybe a type of muscle training that would make it more difficult to make some of these sounds that have more what we call like roughness to them. You can hurt your voice if you don't do it properly, and if you haven't properly trained to build up the stamina to do it. So again, like I would never write that into a piece for someone else to do without their consent. So, there are like all of these different types of considerations that go into my creative practice in terms of trying to figure out like, who do I want to collaborate with? What types of sounds are appropriate for that collaboration? What types of sounds am I drawn to that I feel like communicate the things that maybe, traditional standard Western classical music has not prioritized as a thing of beauty or truth in the past. So yeah. Again, a lot to unpack.
As you can see. Like when I heard that Tina was coming onto the show, I was like, we don't need another guest. Tina is enough guest. No. This is a compliment. This is a compliment. This is like, I'm like, I know if anybody can keep things interesting and keep us talking for a solid hour without anything else, it's Tina Tallon, because you just have so much. And I kind of want to do a part 2. Tina, this is amazing.
I'd be happy to do that. Yeah.
Hopefully your internet in Rome will be.
I think it'll be pretty decent. I actually have a friend who's there right now on.
What's the
on
time
the same
difference
fellowship.
there? What's the time?
I believe it's 6. Well, it depends when the time zone shift, but it's between 5 and 6 hours, I think.
Okay, so it'll be later in the day for you.
6 and 7.
Yeah.
Or if you're so mornings is actually great if your show stays in the mornings, because it'll be nice afternoon. I can have a nice little Aperol spritz with me.
We wouldn't be mad at that.
Have a spritz. You have your coffee. I got my spritz o'clock.
There you go. Well, Tina, you did just kind of tease a little announcement that we have. Tina mentioned if our show stays in the morning. We are staying in the morning. We have some news. We have good news. We have bad news.
Good news, bad news.
So the bad news is
start with the bad news.
We're going to always start with the bad news. The bad news is this is actually the last Hello World. This is our finale.
This is it.
We chose Tina because it's our finale. You save the big names for the end.
They have big names for
so we're gonna let the chat. I'm gonna let the chat freak out for a second.
Don't panic.
Don't panic, Kit. It's okay. Because there's good news.
Good news.
Yeah, the good news is Hello World is becoming Hello Weekend. And we're moving to Fridays starting next week. So next week, you will not join us on a Monday. You will join us on a Friday morning. And we will talk about the week that was instead of the week that is upcoming.
Yes.
So dry those tears, Kit Tempest. Because we wouldn't leave you hanging like that. Yeah, but with things opening back up, I've got my little coffee gig, and people want coffee on a Monday.
Red Barn Coffee
That's real. That's real.
That's good coffee.
Changing the schedule for Hello.
Red Barn Coffee.
Changing the paradigm. It is a paradigm shift.
Yes. So next week, keep your eyes and ears open for more information on Hello Weekend. Now, before we go, we do have a couple of things. And Tina, we're just gonna hang out.
We're gonna hang. Great.
We're just gonna hang. So we had our trivia question today, which is great. So in the U.S., how many different varieties of apples are grown? Do you have a guess? Do either of you have a guess?
Well, we've got the iPhone 12. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, so at least
we've
12.
got at least 12 iPhones.
At least 12.
I don't.
You said 69 was low, didn't you?
69 was low.
That's
okay.
Right. Nice.
Nice.
Kid Tempest is still a little low.
What did Kid say?
1,000?
1,000 is low.
He's still a little low.
Oh my gosh, is it like 2?
Well, considering the fact that if you plant any apple seed from any apple, you get a different kind of apple.
It's true.
Is the apple types add up? I'm gonna say,
that multiplies.
If Kid Tempest says 1,000 and that's low, I understand how 15 would be the plausible next guess.
1,500. 1,500.
1,500. There we go.
Got it. We got there.
You're a little closer, but not quite. You need to add another grand to that. It is actually 2,500. 7,500 worldwide.
Wow. That's I was just about to say that's bananas.
Nope, that's apple.
It's not bananas.
Aren't you glad I didn't say apple?
I also have somewhere here. What did I do with it?
Honeycrisp almost didn't happen. They almost threw all those apples out.
What?
I also know there are like some like bespoke, or what is it called? Not bespoke. Not vintage. What is the word I'm looking for right now?
Heirloom?
Oh, clearly I need my heirloom. Thank you. Yeah. I was reading like something about like heirloom apple varieties where like someone was trying to bring back a specific varietal that they found like in the corner, like in an overgrown section of an orchard or something. And trying to bring that back. But I know apparently Cornell is a huge maker of new
apples.
I have like an ex way back who was from Cornell and was like super into Cornell.
Did he talk about it all the time? Did he just talk about Cornell all the time?
Literally all the time, like nonstop.
I don't know if you've heard.
A
little college.
Out in New York.
Cornell.
Yeah, but apparently Cornell has a huge like apple breeding is not the appropriate word, but
they breed those apples personally.
Yeah, the apple husbandry program, apple agriculture,
development,
agriscience. Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Who knows?
Project out there, and so like apparently they have produced like a ton of these. I didn't know there were 2,500. That is an enormous amount.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It's apples. It's apples.
So many apples. It's not nuts. It's apples.
How do you like them apples?
I love them apples. All right, everybody. That's our show. Oh my goodness. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Tina, a joy, a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
My brain has grown so much since you started talking.
You're too kind.
And we hope to have you back. Until then, friends, thank you for watching. Don't forget, subscribe, help us out. We've got a Patreon that you can join. You can leave us a tip on Ko-fi if you'd like. All these links are in our About section on our I almost said Tumblr, on our Twitch page, on our Tumblr page. We don't have a Tumblr yet. Maybe we should have a 2MB Tumblr.
Have a 2MB.
That would be fun. Two-embler. We'll workshop that. All right. But please consider supporting the channel. We love you all very much. Now that cuffing season is over and it's nice outside, people aren't wanting to stream as much because it's nice outside, but we still do. So continue.
Thank you for doing it, because I never leave my apartment. So
which, like I said, you probably shouldn't. But that's our show. We'll see you next Friday for the opening of Hello Weekend. Until then, we'll see you next week.
Goodbye, world.